Hello. Am I good? All right. Well, good job, ladies. That was outstanding. My little guy was supposed to be a part of that mix, and he called in sick this morning, and I'm wondering why. So, yeah, Dad, my throat's a little scratchy this morning. I'm gonna stay home. Little guy. Well, anyhow, if you guys wanted to see that, we took a video of that, and if you guys want to see that, we're gonna have that posted on the website this week, probably by Wednesday. That was phenomenal, little girls. That was great. Thank you for doing that. Wonderful. And thank you, Butch, for the special song. So I'm just going to share a few things. We have kids in here just for a few moments. I'm going to just talk to you about one contemplation today as we go through the idea of Christmas. We have a photo booth and treats afterward. I want to just provide space and time where we can just have some fellowship together and celebrate this great holiday called Christmas. Well, Christmas is probably my favorite season of the year. I don't know, is it yours? It is, there's special music and special movies and treats and all kinds of really fun things, memories made. But I think it's probably one of the most stressful seasons of the year. There's just a lot going on. I mean, every Christmas you get down to Christmas decorations, and I don't know about you, but we got about 47 totes of Christmas decorations we got to pull out of the attic, bring down, and Christmas lights. Stringing those things is a test of your salvation. As you get those things strung around, and you find out that a whole strand is missing. And if you got the old lights like we do, we got to pull out the bulbs, and you got to test each one, and my word. And then you get the Christmas tree, you cut it, you try to place it, right, in some of those old holders. And have you ever tried to put up a Christmas tree by yourself? You hold it, and you're down there on the ground, and you're trying to cinch those bolts in, and it looks straight from down there. And then you get it tight, and you get it, and you stand up, and you go, oh my goodness, it has a major lean. So you have to unscrew the bolts, and then twirl it a little bit, and screw it back in, and pretty soon you're like bolting it all the way through the tree trunk. And then you can't hardly sneeze for it just to lean the wrong way. So, and then you got that set, and then you got the event planning, you got the party planning, you got the shopping, you got the travel, and then you got bills, and it always costs more than you expect it's going to cost. We try to set a budget every year, and then I think we're way over this year. So, and then pretty soon, before you know it, Christmas just gets cluttered up. It just does. So as we go through this contemplation this morning, I just want us to take a moment to clear away the clutter and to remind ourselves what Christmas is all about. And it's this: God became a baby. Let that thought just settle over the top of you for a moment. God became a baby. Now, first of all, I love babies. Babies are just some of the most cutest, innocent, most sweet little things in the world. They're helpless, they're innocent, and they got chubby cheeks. I love chubby cheeks. And you get down in there and you nuzzle them, and that fresh smell, of a baby. You can't produce that ever again. It's just that fresh sense of a new infant baby, boy or girl. And they take a lot of work, as a parent. You're up all hours of the night, but you don't care. I mean, I remember when I got my kids got to going and waking me up. I'm like, oh man, we just got them down an hour ago, and here I am again. And you get kind of frustrated until you get to the crib, and they look so cute and helpless. You scoop them up, and and God became a baby. Isn't that an astounding thought? John chapter 1, I think, just helps us appreciate the enormity of what this is all about. John chapter 1, verse 1, let me just read it for you. It says this: in the beginning was the Word. Okay? And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him. Look around this room for a minute. Everything that you see, everybody that you see, all the cloth, all the light fixtures, all the floor, and each and every person in here, all things were made through him. You go outside today, see the sky, see the trees, see the grass, see the river, see the mountain, the moon, the stars, the sun, the sea, everything that lives within it, all things were made through him. And without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Verse 14, and the Word became flesh. That's literally astounding. God became a baby. So we're going to finish up this Hope series. And again, I'm just going to share for just a few minutes this morning. We've been going through the last 6 weeks on the topic of hope. And let me tell you, hope is so important. You can go through anything today, and I mean anything, as long as you have a hope worth living for. And Isaiah frames this well. Hope is located, as we'll see today, in a baby. So Isaiah 9, I'm going to take you there just for a few moments here. Chapter 9, verse 2 through 7. Isaiah prophesied 700 years before the time of Christ. And he often prophesied about the coming of salvation and what it will look like. And today we see a great description of what that will look like. But salvation will come through a very unsuspecting, surprising source. And this passage frames this ideal well. So let me read it here, verses 2 through 7. This is just amazing. Verses 2 through 5 describe salvation. And starting in verse 6, talks about how this salvation will come about. Look at this. Chapter 9, verse 2 says, the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who dwelt in a land of deep darkness, on them has light shone. You have multiplied the nation. You have increased its joy. They rejoice before you as with joy at the harvest, as they are glad when they divide the spoil. For the yoke of his burden and the staff of his shoulder, the rod of his oppressor, you have broken, as on the day of Midian. For every boot of the tramping warrior in battle tumult, and every garment rolled in blood will be burned as fuel for the fire. For to us a warrior is given. For to us a king has emerged, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. Is that right? No. For to us a child is born. For to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace, there will be no end. It's very surprising that verses 2 through 5 that describe a wonderful salvation should come through verse 6. A child, a son, a baby. God became a baby. He doesn't show up as a full-grown man walking out of the mist, a warrior type. No, he comes as a little infant. Very surprising. God became a baby, and we know it because one of his names here is called Mighty God. Think about God for a moment. God stands outside of time. Like we talked about last week, 1,000 years is as a day to God. He never grows tired. He never grows weary. He never sleeps. He never slumbers. He's not tempted. He doesn't grow hungry. He's not thirsty. And all of that changed when the Word became flesh. When God became a baby. From heaven's perspective, this is amazing. From today's perspective, looking back on this whole thing, understanding the whole ramifications of this whole thing, it's amazing. But there, right then, from Earth's perspective, right then and there, it was a baby. Cute, adorable, but not very impressive. In fact, it was pretty ordinary. Very ordinary. But you know that some of the most amazing things in life happens in the most ordinary of ways. God comes wrapped in ordinary clothes. And this is what I felt like God spoke to me. When I was just thinking about this text, thinking about this morning, felt like he said this: don't write it off just because it looks ordinary. As we start to turn our attention to a new year, 2019, I feel like that's a word of the Lord. Don't write it off because it looks ordinary. It's just an ordinary job. And it's just an ordinary day. Just an ordinary opportunity. No, not so fast. This is how God accomplishes things. Extraordinary things, extraordinary things never begin extraordinary. They become ordinary. They come from ordinary to something very extraordinary. That's just how God works. The whole idea that Jesus would come as a baby is extraordinary, but it never starts that way. But oh boy, did it become extraordinary. God becomes a baby, becomes a little boy who grows up to be a carpenter. And less than 10% of the things that we read in the Bible was a part of his life. I mean, he lived in obscurity most of his life. And yet he grows up and he spends most of the time with just a small group of people located in one locale. And yet he grows up and he hangs on a cross, dies a criminal's death, and he's buried. What's so special about that? Until 3 days later, he vanquishes death, hell, and the grave, and he wakes up to a blaze of glory. He ascends to the throne on high, and he sits at the right hand of the Father, and he pours out his Spirit on the church, and there's an explosion called the church all over the world. It never starts extraordinary. It starts very, very ordinary. So this whole idea that God becomes a baby should encourage us to suspend our judgment upon things that just seem not so very special. Suspend your judgment, and also suspend your discouragement. Sometimes you get just kind of mundane, bored. No. Hold out on hope. Believe. And just watch what God will do with your mundane and ordinary details of your life. 2019, I believe, is going to be a great year of extraordinary things, but don't write it off because it doesn't come that way. This is just how God works. So we're going to have the team come back up and sing one last song. Like I said, this is going to be a small little thought today, but I want us to be able to have enough time at the end here to have some cookies together. There's hot chocolate out there. We got a photo booth, so please make sure you grab your family and friends and snap a picture, capture a memory as we head on into the Christmas season. I'll let these guys sing the song, but remember, these promises that we have, that Audrey talked about in the Bible, require us to believe and watch what God will do with just a little seed. A little seed becomes a mighty and awesome, extraordinary tree, produces fruit and lots of blessings. That's just how God works. He takes the ordinary and makes it extraordinary. Got to believe.